My name's Ryan Marchman. I'm a chiropractor here in Boulder. I'm a vitalistic chiropractor, and that's different from the chiropractic you may have been exposed to, mainly in its philosophy. So far tonight we've heard from hypnotherapists, we've heard from psychotherapists, we've heard from coaches and intuitive readers and a rolfer and an acupuncturist and a nutritionist who have given you strategies that you can use to increase your health. And I want to expound upon that by one layer and talk about increasing your life. Specifically what I mean is the life that flows through your body, the force that animates you and keeps you separate from being a corpse. Do you guys follow what I'm talking about? Right? The life that flows through your body. So vitalism, vitalistic chiropractor, is the philosophy of life. The word doctor means teacher. So as a doctor of chiropractic, I'm a teacher of the philosophy of life. So the work that I do teaching is as important or more important than the work I do on the table. The reason chiropractic, specifically vitalistic chiropractic, resonates with me, I'll give you my story. When I was 5 years old, I nearly died. I became very sick very suddenly and was rushed to the hospital. I spent 7 days in the pediatric intensive care unit at the Gainesville Regional Hospital in Georgia. And nobody knew why I was dying, but they told my parents to prepare for the worst, that I wasn't going to make it. Then on the 8th day, I woke up in a normal hospital room. I was no longer in the pediatric ICU. I had survived the night, and no one knew why either. Right? And I don't know where my parents were. Maybe they were getting coffee or something. But there was nobody in my hospital room at that time in the morning. So when I woke up, I got my little IV card and I walked out into the hallway. And I walked down the hallway and there was a big plate glass window like this, and I stood there and looked out. I was on the 2nd or 3rd floor, so I could see down below. There was a tree, there was some grass, and a fence with kudzu growing on it. I don't know if you guys have kudzu in Colorado, but in Georgia it's everywhere. It's a kind of ivy, and it's from Japan, and it's just everywhere, all over the place. It's like a jungle. And I stood there looking out, and I saw the green of the tree, and the green of the grass, and the green of the stuff growing on the fence, and I realized for the very first time in my life that I was alive. You know, when you're 5 years old, you don't really have a context for that. You know, what does it mean to be alive? You just know that you're doing stuff, right? So in that moment, I realized that I was alive. I also realized how close I was not to being alive anymore. And standing there in front of the window looking out, I felt closer to the source of life in that moment than I ever had before, but also than I ever have since. And I knew that the life that I was feeling was the same life that I was observing out the window in the trees and the grass and the kudzu growing on the fence. And being 5 years old, having no context for that experience and no one really to talk to about it, I became insanely curious. And I had no other way to satisfy my curiosity than to start reading, right? I was a precocious reader, so I could read at 5. I picked up my father's Webster's Encyclopedic Dictionary. And I just started reading it. I would just flip through and find an article that had something to do with whatever was interesting to me at that time. In retrospection, I know that it was always something that was alive, plant or animal. It was always something to do with human psychology, human performance, what makes people tick, and health. It started then, and for the next 20 years, 2 decades, I spent studying to unlock the mysteries of illness and of wellness, because I needed to understand how I was still alive, why I was still alive. Since my near-life experience, I've felt that I've been given bonus time. I had 5 good years, and then there was a break point, and the rest of this is gravy, right? So with my bonus time, at the end of my life, when I'm asked the question, did you do everything you could with everything you were given? I want to be able to say yes, absolutely. So for 20 years, I studied. I went from the dictionary to, we finally got a computer, and the computer had an electronic version of an encyclopedia. So I went from the dictionary to the encyclopedia. And my life continued this way. As a young man, I became involved in martial arts. I studied healing arts from the Far East as well as healing arts from the West. I spent 15 years in martial arts. I became a master martial artist. I learned Qigong. I learned massage. I learned herbalism. I learned acupressure. I learned Reiki. I became a Reiki master before I was 18. And I just kept learning. And I studied subjects from the far left brain, like biochemistry and molecular biology and physics, to the far right brain, like metaphysics and philosophy, human potential, spirituality, and everything in between. And I really had no reason to do so other than I was inwardly driven to find out more. Always inwardly driven to find out more. I started my first professional healing practice when I was 20 years old. I lost my first patient when I was 18 years old. And it wasn't until 20 years after my near-life experience that I heard the words that finally brought everything I'd learned and everything I'd been through into perspective. I was halfway through chiropractic school. Chiropractic at that point was just another tool for my toolkit. I had learned everything else, right? So why not be a chiropractor? And I was in an assembly. There are mandatory gatherings where everybody in school has to sit and listen to somebody talk. But the man who was speaking that day was named Dr. Arnaud Bernier. And Dr. Arnaud Bernier has since become my great friend and mentor. But what he said from stage that day was this. He was telling the story of the first time he visited a chiropractor. The chiropractor's name was Jean Belleval. Arnaud had been in a motorcycle accident and hurt his back very badly, and he consulted a chiropractor, having no previous experience, didn't know what to expect. And Jean Belleval just sat and listened to Arnaud's story. Just listened, didn't say a word. Arnaud told him everything about his symptoms, everything about his pain, everything about his accident. And finally, from a place of stillness, Jean Belleval said this, "There is nothing that I can do about what is wrong with you. I can only address what is right in you. You cannot fight darkness. You can only turn on the light. You cannot fight sickness, symptom, and disease. You can only turn on life." Right? Only the power of life, the living body, has the power to heal. All the doctors and all the scientists in the world couldn't heal a blade of grass. Do you know that? Right? Only the living body can heal. And the purpose of vitalism, the purpose of vitalistic chiropractic is to reconnect, to open up the conduit of life in the body, which is the spine, so that the innate healing capacity in your body does what it knows how to do at its maximum potential. Right? No doctor can heal you. Only you can heal you. Chiropractors are efficiency experts trying to improve that process for you. And when I heard that from the stage, there's nothing I can do about what's wrong with you. I can only address what is right in you. What is right in you is the inborn wisdom of your body that already knows how to heal. It put everything that I'd learned into a statement of truth. Because up to that point, I was trying to cure people of illness. I was trying to get people out of pain. I was a neuromuscular therapist. I was trying to make people feel better. And even though I had all the knowledge and all the experience from other vitalistic practices, I hadn't connected the dots that instead I should be focusing on making people heal better. You see the distinction? So let's talk about feeling. I mentioned to you that the philosophy of healing that I take may be different from what you've been exposed to before, so participate with me. I'll ask a few questions, and I want you to try to answer. How do you know if you're sick? Somebody tell me. Symptoms? Anybody else? Feel run down, right? Okay. How do you know if you're well? So you lack symptoms? Okay. You feel happy? Sure. Yeah. Sometimes when I ask that question, it's bolder, so it's a little different. I say, how do you know that you're doing well? And people say, well, I got up this morning, right? I'm above ground. That's a pretty low bar, right? But I want to challenge that belief for just a moment. Because is it possible to have symptoms and be perfectly well? Or is it possible to be very ill and not feel run down or unhappy or feel symptoms? Yeah, right? Because everybody knows somebody who everyone pictured them as the perfect healthy person. They were the athlete, they were this and that, and then dropped dead of a heart attack. Well, their heart didn't suddenly stop. It had been failing for years before that happened, right? Same thing with cancer. People suddenly find out they've got cancer. Do you think the tumor grew overnight? No, they've been cancering for decades before it comes to the point where it's detectable. So people can be very ill and never know. They can never feel it. Likewise, if I, on the other side of that, if I have an egg salad sandwich and I leave it in the car because I forgot, and then I go out at lunch to get it, and it got hot and it's gross. What if I eat it? What's my body likely to do? I'm probably going to puke, right? So vomiting is a symptom. Does that mean that I'm ill? Or is that my body functioning perfectly to protect me from poisoned food? Yeah. So let me ask you this. Are the presence or absence of symptoms a reliable gauge of the state of your health? No. They absolutely are not. I've gathered together for you tonight, myself plus 10 other practitioners, who can help you not only recover from symptoms if you're experiencing them, but increase the vitality in your body so that you have the inner resources to keep the lights on. So that you don't have to fight disease, you don't have to fight sickness, you don't have to try and fight the darkness. The light within your body, the innate healing capacity of your body that runs through your nervous system knows what to do. All of the people I've brought together for you tonight give you a different component of that kind of healing. Does anybody have questions about that so far? So let me explain how chiropractic fits in and why every man, woman, and child on the planet not only should, but has a duty to be checked by a chiropractor. Go ahead and sigh because you don't believe me. Yeah. Everything that happens in your body requires chemistry. Is that true? To wake up in the morning, you have to create a chemical, right? To go to sleep at night, you have to create a different chemical. To run and catch the bus, you have to create a chemical. To calm down after you've run to catch the bus, you have to create a chemical. Everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought, felt, or experienced required chemistry in your body. There are approximately 37 trillion cells in your body, and each one of those cells is a little chemical factory. The chemical reactions occur at about 1 billion reactions per second per cell. So if you multiply that together, that's 37 trillion billion reactions per second in your body. That's a lot of chemical reactions going on all the time. Fortunately, the body's inborn wisdom knows how to control and coordinate the chemistry so that this cascade of chemistry occurs at the right time, in the right amounts, and goes to the right place. Right? Right place, right time, right amounts. The communication system for that control begins in the brain, travels down the spinal cord inside the bones. The spinal cord is in there. And then out the spinal nerves to every single organ, tissue, and cell in your body. So all 37 trillion of those cells take direction from this system, the nervous system. What if that system, that information superhighway, was hampered? Just 1%. Somebody tell me, what would happen? Your vitality decreases. Yeah, because the organs, the glands, the cells that create the chemistry have no direction. So how do they know how to make the right chemicals at the right time and the right amounts? In order for us to control and coordinate that, the brain has to send the right signals down the spinal cord to the body. Am I correct? Yeah? So again, why chiropractic? Oh, this is a problem. Somebody's going to be mad. What does chiropractic have to do with that communication? Well, the brain and the spinal cord, being the most important organs of your body, are protected by bone. Nature saw fit to protect it by bone. The brain is easy to protect. It's just a big ball on the top of your head, so it's completely encased in bone. But the spinal cord, also encased in bone, is protected by the spinal column, which has joints in it. because without those joints you wouldn't be able to move. So that means instead of a solid protection like your skull, we have a jointed protection that allows for mobility. If any one of these segments, multiple of these segments, or the overall structure of the spine was to be out of whack and impinge on the cord instead of protect the cord, what do you think would happen? Problems, that's right. Everybody repeat after me. Bone out. Irritates nerves. Causes problems. Subluxation. That's the chiropractic word for misalignments in the spine that interfere with the spine. Right? So repeat after me again. Bone aligned. Relieves the nerves. Problems go away. Adjustment. Right. So, I'm not sure if you guys can see, but hopefully you can. On the scale of health, going up. If all the bones are in place, protecting the spine, then the communication in the nervous system can be close to 100%. The communication in the nervous system is close to 100%. The organs and the glands create the right chemicals at the right time and the right amounts. Follow me so far? That happens, you have balanced body chemistry. And since the cascade of chemistry is what causes everything to happen in your body, balanced body chemistry means health. But then something happens. What is that something? Subluxation. Yeah? So then health begins to decrease. This is time. So, subluxation occurred. Bone's now out of place. Communication is no longer at 100%. Organs, glands are not creating chemicals at the right times and the right amounts in the right places. If you have too much of a chemical at the wrong time or too little of a chemical at the wrong time, ill health, right? Causes imbalanced body chemistry. Imbalanced body chemistry is ill health. Whether you feel it or not. Are you with me here? Then something else happens. What is it? An adjustment. Yes. An adjustment realigns the neuroskeletal tension framework so that communication in the body is closer to 100%. Organs, glands, and tissues create chemicals at the right times and the right amounts. Balanced body chemistry creates good health. Everybody follow me on that. Now, I have one more part, because I told you I was going to tell you how it was your duty, didn't I? Yeah. We live in modern world. If you were here for Jackie's talk earlier, she talked about how the modern world is really hard on our bodies. Is that true? We live in caveman bodies. We haven't evolved in 120,000 years. Our pinky toe has gotten a little shorter, and our tongues have gotten a little bigger. That's all that's happened. 120,000 years, we're still in caveman bodies. That's when Homo sapiens started to walk the earth. Our intellectual, technological, and spiritual development in the last 200 years has been exponential, right? We know how to communicate using pure light. Have you ever thought about that? Ever made a cell phone call? That's pure light. Right? We communicate more with light than we do with language. We no longer have money. Our money is light beamed across space. Understand where I'm coming from here? Our intellectual, technological, and spiritual development is vastly superior to our caveman body development. That's why the modern lifestyle harms our bodies, because our bodies have not caught up to the ease with which we relate to the world. Right? Our caveman bodies are what give us the propensity to violence. They're what give us the propensity to fear, right? War, all of that stuff. And it's what causes modern age illness is the inability for our caveman bodies to adapt to our spaceman lifestyle. Well, that inability to adapt is what causes this subluxation, right? Because we are supposed to be adapting to gravity, not sitting in chairs. We're supposed to be adapting to short-term stress, like being chased by a tiger and then it stops chasing you, right? And then you go back to normal. We have very long-term stressors. We have stressors that last a lifetime now that would not have existed when our bodies came to be. So that inability to adapt to stress causes subluxation. That inability to adapt to stress also creates changes in your genes. Who's familiar with epigenetics? Yeah, people used to think genes were locked. You were stuck with what you were born with, but epigenetics have shown that changes within a person's lifetime can be passed on to one's offspring. Right? So if I told you that I had a way to help every single human being on the planet adapt to a modern lifestyle in such a way that their children would be more robust, have fewer ear infections, fewer missed days of school, more overall constitution, would that be a good thing? Right. Studies have shown that children who grow up in chiropractic families have those things. More robust constitutions, less missed days of school, less ear infections. A lot of other things too. Dr. Mike back there has a lot of research on the pediatric side of chiropractic. So is it not our duty to help the human race evolve to match our capacity faster? Because I don't want to wait another 120,000 years before we catch up to where we're supposed to be. Right? Some people say the human race just needs to be more spiritual. People aren't spiritual enough, and I disagree. Every single one of us has had a peak experience of spirit at some point in their life. Mine was when I was 5 years old. We have that capacity. We don't have the physical capacity to maintain it yet. Follow me. So if I told you that if you get checked by a chiropractor on a regular basis, keeping your spine communicating with your brain so that you make the right chemicals at the right times in the right amount and produce good health, and you bring your children in to get checked for the same reason, whether you are sick or well, whether you feel it or don't feel it, do you think that would be a good thing? And if I told you that by doing so you would increase the vitality of the entire race going into the future, because the changes you make in this lifetime will be passed on to the next lifetime, and so on. And if we can accelerate the process, we will get to where we're supposed to be. Right on time. I want to thank all you for coming tonight. Like I mentioned, I brought together a selected group of individuals who think like I do, who work differently than I do, so that you can build a team of vitalistic practitioners who can support you in this process in various ways. Because I have a vision for chiropractic, and I have a vision for the human race that goes well beyond the 12, 24, 36, whatever visits you spend in my office, 30, 40,000 years into the future, when chiropractic is no longer necessary. That's why I'm a chiropractic educator, because the more people I get into chiropractic offices more often, the closer we get to that goal. The same is true for the other practitioners I've brought in here for you tonight. You do not have all the skills to do all the things that you need in your life, true? I've brought 10 separate skill sets, 11 separate skill sets in to see you tonight so that they can inspire you to take care of yourself and so that I can inspire you to take care of the world. Use these people. Take advantage of the offers they've given you tonight. Take advantage of the offer that I have out there with Jim. And find a way to get your nervous system communicating so that you can adapt to the environment we live in today, so that your children can adapt to their changing environment that they live in, so that eventually the human race is no longer ill. Right? I appreciate everybody coming here tonight. This has been a night of nourishment. I hope you found it nourishing. My name is Dr. Ryan Marchman, and I love you all. Drive safe and have a good night.